welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well out there. And today we're going to head back to nightmare territory for the final film of this 4K box set of A Nightmare on Elm Street. But before we do that, do me a favor, like, comment, and subscribe. Subscribe. I greatly would appreciate that. Also, as always, a shameless plug for my TeePublic store. I'll leave a link for that in the description box below. And yes, today we're going to talk about Wes Craven's New Nightmare. And we're going to do a ranking video of the first 7 films in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. That video is going to be coming up next, and within the next few days. But this one, New Nightmare, came out October 14th of 1994. It's rated R. It's an hour and 52 minutes long, the longest of the franchise, at a budget of $8 million, and upon release, sadly, it only made $19.7 million. Now, after Freddy's Dead, which was, New Line's intention was to end the franchise with that film. And while that film did make money, made a nice amount of money for New Line, it wasn't very well received by the fans nor the critics. Now, the critics weren't that important, but the fans really did not care for that film. I know it has its fans, but overall, fans were very disappointed with that's the way that New Line decided to take out Freddy Krueger. So, Bob Shaye contacted Wes Craven, mended some fences with Wes. There had been a little bit of bad blood between Bob and Wes. Gave him some back pay for some merchandising money that Wes never got, kind of smoothed things over. And he asked Wes, do you have any ideas on how to do another Nightmare on Elm Street? And out of that conversation, Wes wrote the script for Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which is what we're going to talk about right now. Now, in this film, we have Heather Langenkamp back as herself and Nancy Thompson for a small part of the film. Miko Hughes plays her little boy Dylan. Wes Craven plays Wes Craven in this film. Robert Englund plays himself and the new designed Freddy Krueger. Bob Shaye's in this film as himself. There's another executive from New Line as themselves. Tuesday Night comes back. You see her in a funeral scene, along with the actor that played Rod from the original film. He is also in this film. Now, this film has no title sequence. There's no title card. It jumps right into the movie. We're on a movie set. We see Wes Craven directing. We see makeup effects going on. There's fire. And all of a sudden, we see this glove that we find out that Nancy Thompson, Heather Langenkamp's husband, who actually, her husband in real life is a special effects artist, and her husband in this film is a special effects artist. His crew's working on his remote control glove, and it goes haywire and starts killing them. And she wakes up in the middle of an earthquake. And we're introduced to her, her husband, and her son. And Heather, I'm just going to refer to her as that because that's what she is. She's playing herself here. Hasn't been in a movie in a little while. Kind of been out of the spotlight. She had her son. Her husband's a special makeup effects artist. And we find out that she had a stalker for many years, which actually was a real thing that Heather Langenkamp happened to her. She had a stalker in real life, and Wes Craven asked her for permission to use that in the storyline. And she gave him her blessing to use that as a plot point in this film. And she does an appearance for an anniversary for the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Robert Englund shows up dressed as Freddy. So we see that they're friends outside of the franchise. We see John Saxon playing himself, and then her father later on in the film, which we're getting to. And pretty much Dylan is starting to see Freddy, or weird things are starting to happen around Dylan. His sanity is starting to crack because of things that Freddy is doing. And we find out as the movie goes along, as there's these demons, these otherworldly demons that wants to hurt innocents. And when Wes Craven created Freddy, it kind of gave it a face and a name, and it kind of liked it. And when they stopped making films a la Freddy's Dead, it was trying to find a way into the real world. And the only way he can get into the real world, as Wes Craven explains in this film, is a conversation between him and Heather Langenkamp, is because of the script he's writing for A New Nightmare, because Heather gets approached by Bob Shaye saying, Wes is working on a brand new script, we want you to come back to the franchise. That Freddy has to come through her, and he's going to use any of her weakest points, being her son. So that sets the template. Her husband gets killed in the dream sequence with the glove that he was designing for the new Freddy movie. It looks a lot like the glove from the poster art of the original film that was done on purpose by Wes Craven. And pretty much at the end, her and her son Dylan have to destroy Freddy in kind of a Hansel and Gretel ending. They destroy Freddy, and now they can move on with their lives, and that is pretty much New Nightmare. Now, this movie is a precursor, obviously, to Scream, but You can see the groundwork, even though Wes didn't write Scream, Kevin Williamson did. You can see the groundwork being laid by how meta this movie is. I mean, we're seeing her on set. Her husband works in the movies. We're going by everybody's real names. Wes Craven's in the movie. They're talking about writing this new Nightmare script. Robert Englund's in the movie as himself. This is a very meta movie before Scream. Even, Scream didn't come out for 2 more years after this. So this was really, at the time, pretty groundbreaking and a really wild swing for the franchise. Although one I do appreciate. I mean, Wes Craven came back to create something original and something different with Freddy. And Freddy really doesn't show up in this movie. You see him briefly during a dream sequence at the funeral for Heather's husband, when he pops out of this hole to grab Dylan. You see him very briefly, but really, Freddy doesn't make his full appearance till like an hour and 8 minutes into this film. But he's looming large over the entire film and over Heather's life. We really do spend time with Heather to get a sense of her home life, her relationship with her son, her relationship with her husband. Or her husband does get killed within the first 25 minutes. He gets killed by the glove in a dream sequence. But Freddy's not there. It's just a glove. We don't see Freddy. But Freddy does loom large over everything going on until he finally makes his triumphant return coming out of the closet when Heather has a bad nightmare and she gets shaken out of bed by an earthquake, which we find out was a part of her nightmare as well. So, Freddy is not in this movie a whole lot. Now, once he shows up, we do see enough of him through the rest of the film, but I never count that as a negative. I like what Wes does here. The meta-ness of it. Freddy's trying to come into the real world. He's pissed that they kill off the character in the movies, and now he's trying to find any way back to regain his power, and this is his only way to do it is through Heather and through her son. I like all that, and I just like what Wes does here. And the other thing, besides the acting, I think Heather Langenkamp's awesome here. Matter of fact, I think she's better here than she is throughout the other 2 movies she was in. And I love her in the original, and I love her in Dream Warriors, but I think this is the best she is in the full franchise. The 3 movies she's in, this is the best acting she's done. And I like her in the other films, don't get me wrong, but I think she's wonderful here. Miko Hughes does really good as Dylan. For a child actor, he's really good at emoting when he has to emote. He's going through a lot of different emotions. He's having a psychotic breakdown almost. So there's some really good stuff there. I love seeing Robert Englund without the makeup on, and then we get to see him with the newly designed makeup, which I actually do like. Even though Wes said before he passed away, he gave an interview and he said he shouldn't have changed the makeup. Although we do see Robert in the original makeup during that interview with him and Heather. He comes out in his original getup, but then the rest of the movie he's in his new design, which K&B Effects did all the makeup effects for this movie. And I love the new design, actually. I love the old original design, but I do really like the new upgrade they give him. It clothes all the way down to the makeup, the new glove. I like it all. I think it works really well for this new installment that Wes gave us in the franchise. And this was the last installment until Freddy vs. Jason, and then the remake in 2009. So I like a lot of the choices, and I like at the end when Heather's freaking out and she calls John Saxton for help because she's pretty much the only one left that she can trust. She can't get a hold of Robert Englund. She can't get a hold of anybody else. So she calls John Saxton, and he meets her at her home. But he's dressed like her father from the original film, and she's dressed like her character Nancy, kind of, from the original film, and even refers to her as his daughter. So it's almost like the 2 worlds are melding at this point. From the original movie and the real world is melding until Heather and her son defeat Freddy in the dream world, and everything goes back to normal, although her husband's dead, and so is her babysitter, her friend's dead. So, some awful things have happened, but things go back to normal as they were. And one of the big positives of this film, I think Robert Englund's fantastic as himself, and obviously Freddy. I think he's great here. And it's definitely a less jokey Freddy. There is dark humor, but it's definitely more in a step in line with the original film instead of what came after the original film. The one other thing about this movie, and nothing against Rachel Talalay, but I said in my Freddy's Dead review that I didn't think it was a very well-directed movie. There's some cool shots in that, but nothing groundbreaking. From frame 1, you could tell Wes is back and a seasoned hand. Somebody knows what they're, somebody's assured of what they're doing is behind the camera, because the directing is a major upgrade in this film. The only downside to this film, because I think it's a really brilliant script and I love the direction that Wes takes this, is the effects. And I'm not talking about the makeup effects. The makeup effects are all great. It's the early stage CGI and the matte paintings towards the end. Now, they've never looked great on Blu-ray. This 4K, and it's another really good transfer from Warner Brothers, unfortunately shows more of the cracks in the effects towards the end of the film. That's where the problems really come in with the effects, is towards from the freeway sequence through the end of to the Hansel and Gretel boiler room stuff. That's when the effects, unfortunately, that's not real, takes a major nosedive and looks really bad. I mean, they didn't have a lot of money at $8 million, and they stretched it. They did a lot with that $8 million. Unfortunately, some of that stuff, they may have shot a little bit over their target with this one, where they couldn't afford to do the effects right. They probably should have cut some of those effects back. Less might have been better at this point, since they didn't have the money to do it right. So that's one of the big negatives of this film, is some of the effects toward, especially in the last act of the film, they really stand out as just not looking good, and it kind of takes you out of the movie a little bit, which really sucks, because the movie is so well written and so cool and inventive that it sucks that it takes you out of the movie at the end. And I don't really care for the death of Freddy. It's nothing original. It's nothing we haven't seen before. So I think the effects and the ending, the way they dispatch of Freddy, are a little bit disappointing, and I don't think, compared to the rest of the film, it's a little bit of a letdown at the end. But the rest of the film is so good, I can forgive those shortcomings, and I always have been able to forgive those shortcomings because of how good the movie is until those weak points towards the end. So hats off to Wes Craven for being able to come back and create this really badass, cool, introspective look at the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. He did a really nice job, and I really, really like this film, except for the little shortcomings of the effects towards the end. Those were unfortunate, but I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, they were burdened by the restrictions of the effects of the period, and they also didn't have a huge budget. That's why I said they probably should have just cut back on those effects and just found another way to go about it. And I think the film would have been a knockout if it wasn't for that. And I also think, this is my hypothesis, it doesn't mean this is true, I don't know why the box office wasn't as high as it should have been. I think there was so much bad blood coming off of Freddy's Dead, even though that movie made money, but a lot of people didn't like it. I don't like that film. It just doesn't work for me. I think, even though it was 3 years removed from Freddy's Dead, I think the stink was still on the franchise because of Freddy's Dead, that this one really never had the chance it should have had, for how good and how well written it is and how well made it is, except the shortcomings towards the end of the film. I think that's why this movie didn't. That's just me pontificating. I don't know. God knows what was going on in '94 and why. I mean, horror wasn't big at this point. Jason had been kind of knocked out after Jason Goes to Hell. Nightmare hadn't been around in 3 years. Michael Myers was taking his slumber still until 95, 96 when he came back out with The Curse of Michael Myers. So horror wasn't in the best of places, especially for our big three horror characters. I mean, we had some cool movies in the 90s, and there's some really good horror there, but horror wasn't on top until Scream came out in 96, which revitalized the slasher movie and revitalized horror in general, even though there had been some really cool movies before that. And The Mouth of Madness was one I just went over to 4K. I think that movie's a goddamn masterpiece. Unfortunately, it didn't do that well upon release. You know what I mean? We had Bram Stoker's Dracula in the 90s. That did really well. I remember seeing that in the theaters. But horror was down for many years until Scream came out. Nice little tidbit of trivia. The morgue attendant who shows Nancy or Heather her husband's body in the morgue was played by Earl Brown. And he is the same guy who played Kenny, the cameraman, in Scream. So Wes Craven brought him back in Scream a couple years later to work on that film. Now, at the end of the day, I really like this entry. This is one of my favorite entries in the whole franchise. I would give Wes Craven's New Nightmare a 9 out of 10. A 9 out of 10 for Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Now, how does this disc look? Pretty damn good. The transfer by Warner Brothers is really well done, as it was with the rest of the franchise. You can see there's more clarity, more depth of field. There's the grain structure still there. They didn't scrub anything. I think it looks really nice. There's a few spots where it looks soft. This isn't the strongest remaster of the box set, but it's still a major upgrade from the old Blu-ray. So I would give, the transfer alone is really good. It's way better than the old Blu-ray. The sound is at Dolby Atmos. They upgraded the sound, and the sound is really good. It sounds great. You can hear the dialogue is crystal clear. It uses the surround channels. It sounds really good. So The transfer and the sound, I would give also a 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 for the film, 9 out of 10 for the disc. What are your thoughts on Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and where does it rank in the franchise for you? I'm going to have my ranking video out in a few days, so check on back for that. But that's it for this video. But until next time, bye.